Now, is that good?
Yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah, okay. Ready to go.
Yep.
Okay. So, what's your city of residence?
Hudson.
Hudson. Very good. That's the right answer. Okay. And how long have you lived in Hudson?
For a little bit over a year.
Okay.
Where did you live before?
In the town of Washington, which was in the 103rd Assembly District, which I first represented when I was elected in March of 2012. That was the finished Mark Molinaro's term. And then between that special election and the November election, they redrew the lines. And the town of Washington was cut out of this district, which was mostly the same district I had represented for those 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Where's Washington?
it's where Millbrook is.
Oh, okay.
It's the town is called the town of Washington, but that's better known as from the village of Millbrook.
Okay.
It's 22. Like where 22 is?
Well, no, it's really
The 22 doesn't go through
it's
it?
no, that's Millerton. Millerton is over the eastern edge. Millbrook is 44. Town of Washington is literally the center of Dutchess County.
Okay.
It's like right in the middle there.
So
It's where
Is
it's
343 over there?
yes.
Okay, because I used to drive to Torrington to
Uh-huh.
work,
Yeah.
and I used to see I think I drove through Washington.
Yeah, you probably did. If you
Yeah.
went through 44 to 343,
Yeah, and
That
there's a
would've been-
21 there? What is
um,
the train? The train goes along what road?
train goes along 22. That's
Okay,
the
it is
north-south
22. Okay.
route, but that's not in. that doesn't go through the town of Washington. It goes through town of Dover Plains and then Amenia and then up to northeast, which is where Millerton is, and then
I would cut
into
over to
Columbia
Sharon.
County. Yeah, well that yeah.
Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Google map it.
yeah, right.
Sorry.
Okay, hardball question. Ferry Street Bridge. You know anything about that?
Sure, that it's been
Okay.
closed down. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Just want to know if you, I think that's going to be a big issue in Hudson. I mean, it is a big issue in Hudson already. Just
It's
wondering.
the access to the waterfront, right?
Yeah, and it's closed.
Well, we had a
Mhm.
meeting the other day with the mayor and the chair president of the Common Council to discuss, what they were looking at and how we could be helpful in terms of funding sources.
Are there sources available, do you think, to help out?
I'm sure there are sources available. Sure. I mean, I don't know which ones specifically. We haven't
Right.
really seen what their plans are and what they're looking at, but there certainly are.
Just to back up for a second, just tell us why you're running again.
I have really felt very fortunate to have the opportunity to represent this district in the assembly. It's an extraordinary, beautiful district, even though it's very big. It is very beautiful, and I feel like I've made a real difference, and I'd like to have an opportunity for 2 more years to see what else we can accomplish and advocate for the people of the Hudson Valley. I think it's been a time when a member of the majority party representing this region had a chance to be heard in a whole different way than has had in the past, because I am the first Democrat ever to represent this district. And of course the district is, mixed a little bit because some of it was part of the 103rd, part of it is this new district. I mean, it's a combination of what I first was elected to and some new areas. But I love this area. I'm passionate about its potential, and the economic engines that are the very things we love have for the future here. And I really want to be sure to see that those things, the agriculture, the culture, the history, the natural resources, the energy of the people, become the economic engines that will bring the jobs here locally and make sure our kids stay in the area and have local good well-paying jobs to raise their families with.
Is there anything that you're specifically proud of accomplishing during this past term?
There are a number of things. I mean, I in Dutchess County particularly, we had an energy tax that we were able to bring back the funds in the state budget to to get repealed, and that was $3.5 million brought back to Dutchess County. We've worked very hard on a really groundbreaking Lyme protection legislation that passed both houses unanimously in the Senate and in the Assembly, and was waiting the governor's signature right now. I'm very proud of that because, as you know, Lyme has been a huge issue in the Hudson Valley and other tick-borne diseases, and this is a really important piece in protecting patients and their treatment options. I'm very proud of being a full-time legislator that kept my promises to be responsive to the people of my district, to just really, to be there in every way possible. We've had our diner stop tours for 3 years now, and because this is such a big district, it's really hard for people to get to either Hudson or Poughkeepsie, where our 2 district offices are. So we went to them and met with hundreds of constituents in the course of those 3 years and in those diner stops. At the same time, supporting great local businesses. I'm a huge fan of our iconic diners here in the Hudson Valley, and we do have really great ones and special ones, and it's been a really fun opportunity. Buy constituents a cup of coffee and chat over whatever it is that they want to talk about, and we've had a huge range of issues. And I think we've done a very good constituent services thanks to our great team. It's small, but really hardworking, and again addressed really thousands of different constituent issues between the emails that we've gotten and the phone calls and the people that have come in and helped them through any number of different issues. And I'm proud of the resources we brought back significant increases in funding to schools throughout the district. We've really kind of put the Hudson Valley on the map in terms of recognizing the importance of our small agricultural businesses, the distilleries, the breweries, the cheese makers. It's really been supported at a level that never has before, and I've been a very vocal proponent of that.
So, can you talk a little bit about that energy tax, because we heard about that the other day from Mike Kelsey.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell me what you heard, or do you want me to just explain?
Yeah, as I understood it, he said that repealing the energy tax took away the mental health funding, and mental health is his big issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's completely wrong, and it actually put in money for mental health services. In closing down the Wassaic and Hudson Valley state institutions over the last number of years, the state programs, the state funding that was in place had to be picked up by the counties, and those costs went to the county. So in bringing this state money in, it was able to offset those costs and help the county pay for not only those, but other and better programs in mental health, and free up the money for the energy tax to be repealed. He voted for that energy tax. I mean, I can't, I don't exactly understand why he feels the need. And he thanked me at the time. He, did an editorial or a column in one of the local papers, the Millbrook Independent, thanking me for my advocacy on this. And now all of a sudden he's kind of turning the facts around. I'm on the mental health committee. I am a passionate advocate for better mental health care. In fact, one of the things that we did last winter, and this was completely on my own initiative, once we started hearing about some of these regional economic development, these regional centers of excellence, which is what the state was doing with mental health, shutting down these really local programs in different counties and going regional. So here, for example, in my district, which is Dutchess and Columbia County, it was either Albany or Rockland County. Those were the two nearest facilities. What we did was we hosted a roundtable, and we had the commissioners both from Columbia and Dutchess County of mental health, of aging, of veterans affairs, commissioners or departments, depending upon what the structure was in the two counties. We had the people from the consortium here, we had people from Mental Health America, we had the Mental Health Association of Columbia and Green. We brought them all together for 2 or 3 hours with the chair of the Mental Health Committee in the Assembly to talk about what their concerns were in getting services for local people. So I have been active and involved and committed to being sure that we have mental health services from the very beginning. And this money that we were able to bring back for the county did nothing to undermine that. It only enhanced it.
You had mentioned that the regional mental health facilities are either in Albany or Rockland County. Is there gonna be, I mean, that's pretty.
Exactly. That's exactly the
Are
point.
you
That's
looking,
farm.
are you looking to bring something to,
That's exactly my point, is that is what the governor's plan lays out. Regional centers of excellence, and for our region, those are the two closest facilities. So that's exactly why we pulled this roundtable together. That's exactly what we're looking to be sure that this, our region has the services. We need more beds, we need more programs, we need to break down silos so that if somebody is, a veteran and is dealing with substance issues and has mental health issues and is over 65, it isn't 4 different places that they have to go to. It's getting services that they need in one straightforward way. And those are exactly the issues that I've been addressing and dealing with. It's going back then to the state and saying, this is not going to work for my region. This is what we need to do to change it. And that's the advocacy that I'm committed to playing.
Speaking of beds, are you thinking about Ebola? Are you looking at that at all?
It's, I'm following what the governor has a plan, and I'm hoping that it's, it's the right hospitals and that they're getting the right preparation. But at this point, it hasn't been a significant campaign issue on the state level.
You want to talk about the power lines a little bit?
Sure. Well, tomorrow is a really important meeting in Churchtown, which I'm sure you're all covering. But again, since last fall too, it feels like we've been these power line. I feel like our office became kind of energy experts de facto between the power lines, the federal energy of the FERC capacity zone, the tax in Dutchess County, the soaring prices. Everybody was getting overwhelmed by the spike in their prices and home heating bills. Last winter, we had one of our diner stops tours in I think it was at Martindale, Chief Martindale, and the fire commissioner from Ankrum came with a stack this high of bills from people both people who were his firefighters and other neighbors saying, people are just overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. This is making them crazy. They can't make ends meet paying this and their other costs. And so we had Central Hudson, who who serves that Ankrum area. I know National Grid is the rest of the county, but actually Ankrum is Central Hudson. Came up and we did a forum at the firehouse to have them address that. So every aspect of energy, but the power lines. This has been from the beginning a totally misguided and kind of mishandled approach to getting energy from upstate to downstate where it's needed, and I'm committed to ensuring that nothing is done to destroy our region and the farms and the families and the communities and the businesses. And already we've seen the hit in terms of property values because there's question and people can't put property on the market, or if they do put property on the market, they're not finding the buyers because people say, well, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a huge power line here? So I understand there's also some real questions about whether the need is as real as it was initially led to believe, and so those are all things that we're monitoring. We've been in touch with the PSC. We have gone to virtually every town and community meeting to hear what people are struggling with, what their concerns are, and I'll be there tomorrow to hear this latest information.
what about FERC? How do you feel about FERC?
Oh, another totally misguided notion. How do you charge people more in order to encourage producers who are not being impacted at all to produce more? And I support certainly the work of our federal representatives to try to get this, and we've been writing every letter that we can to to FERC, to anybody who will listen, and I'm hopefully in certainly supporting the litigation as well. Hopefully this will ultimately be found to to be a notion that's just not the right way to go on addressing increased production. It's just not the way to do it.
Do you have what would be your ideal solution in terms of the power lines?
Well, first of all, I really want to have a clear understanding that there's a need, and there's a whole lot of new technology, microgrids, more localized generation. There's a lot of other things that can be approached or could be integrated into energy production in order to accomplish the goal of getting that energy to, downstate to the city and Westchester, and where the need seems to be greater. And so I want to be sure that that those approaches are on the table as well. Also, undergrounding. Everybody acknowledges that undergrounding is a real option. It's just the power companies that aren't used to spending that kind of money and that don't have the technology and they're in their toolbox right now that are saying, oh, we can't do that. We can't be using 19th century, early 20th century technology here in the 21st century and destroying the economic engine that our view sheds and our farms and tourism has been to this region. I mean, that's the whole false thinking of this, to say, well, we'll do this and we'll bring power down there, but in the meanwhile we're totally undermining our local economy here, and that's not acceptable.
Fracking, where do you stand?
I feel like I still have never heard the science and an argument that tells me that it's not at putting our water and our soils at risk, and until I can hear or learn something like that, I can't support it. I want us to look at different ways of generating energy. I want to see renewable energy. I want us to have a much more robust state approach to diversifying our energy, but at this point I haven't been convinced that it would not seriously put our water and our soils and other parts of our environment at risk.
Campaign finance reform.
Yes, definitely need to have that. No, I'm a huge advocate for comprehensive and serious campaign finance reform. I mean, I think that the money that we're seeing, particularly this year, is it's obscene. It really is. And I don't believe that corporations are people. I don't believe that people should be able to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to candidates. I want to see really a complete reform in the way that that campaign finance and campaigns are run, and then it starts with real redistricting. I mean, we need to have redistricting that's meaningful, where the people pick their representatives. Representatives don't pick the people that they want to represent.
So you would, you think there should be an independent commission to redistrict?
I do believe it should be absolutely independent. I don't believe, and I think I contrast with my challenger on this, because he doesn't believe in an independent redistricting process, as he said to the Poughkeepsie Journal.
Mm-hmm. And the bill that's the resolution that's on the ballot for November, are you in favor of that? I haven't fully decided how I'm voting on it. I don't think it goes far enough. I definitely don't. But I do have some concerns about whether it's better than what we have, and what the likelihood of it's a sort of a personal conversation I keep having with myself about it. I hope people will decide and make their voices heard on that. Do you have an opinion on the SAFE Act? The SAFE Act?
What about it?
Are you in favor of, do you think a lot of people say it should be repealed? Do you think it should be repealed?
I don't think it should be repealed. I think it's not perfect, and I've said to many constituents I'd be happy to have conversations about ways that it could be improved, but I don't think it should be repealed.
Okay. Recently there have been some criticisms of IDAs. I just want to see how you feel about them on a local level,
I think we need some serious IDA reform in the state. We've certainly been observing and reading about what's been going on here locally, and we certainly want to keep businesses we want to create jobs and we want to keep jobs here, but I think there's, some really serious concerns about the way the IDA process has operated and does operate, and, would like to be part of some serious revision of that going forward.
Do you have any ideas of how you would like it to be reformed?
It's not something that I've had a chance to really, delve into the way I have other issues, but I'm open, I'm always open to having conversations and hearing if you all have ideas about it. I'd certainly be, more than happy to hear what your thoughts are.
Where do you think the minimum wage should be?
I'm comfortable with the 10-10. I just really feel that it's very important that people who are working full time can live on their income and support their families and be contributing members of our community, and we don't have that right now, and that's something that we need to, and we need to do it in a way that supports our small businesses and gives them time to adjust. Our small businesses are the backbone of our economy here, but we do need to be sure that people can live on what they're making when they're working.
Do you agree with the idea of a training wage, like high school kids making less than,
Yeah, I don't object to that as long as it's done in a way that, that makes sense, and not, where it's not a situation where people can be identified as training age just to sort of skirt the real minimum wage.
What ideas do you have for creating jobs and economic development for the district?
In training jobs, is that what you said?
Economic development.
Oh, what ideas do I have for economic development in the district? Well, as I said earlier, I'm very passionate about being sure that the things that we love about our district and our region are the things that become the economic engine. Certainly in Dutchess County, we saw for a long time that all the eggs were put in the one basket of IBM, and as that started eroding or selling off or moving overseas or offshoring, whatever, the whole economy went with it. And so I think it's extremely important that we have a diversified economy, and I think that we are seeing that there's a huge appetite in New York City which is, has been described as the biggest appetite in the country for the farm and beverage kinds of production that we're starting to see more and more of in the Hudson Valley and in Columbia County. The farms are slowly doing better. The increase in the number of there's so many new distilleries and cideries and breweries in my district, cheesemakers. Every week it feels like we're hearing from somebody else who's doing something new in the food and farm to table and agricultural, and also tapping into the arts and historic treasures of the area, and we're bringing tourists. I'd like to see some real hotels in Columbia County that will support the buses that we have coming up to go to Olana or Omai or any of these other places and come into Hudson, for example. It's just really hard to have a bed at the last minute because a lot of our places are booked up. So we really need to be much more proactive about getting some different kinds at different levels of hotels and inns in Columbia County particularly.
So sometimes it seems like it's hard for the small businesses to get the same kind of loans and grants that the big businesses can get. And I was wondering if this is getting worse because of the regional councils.
I'm not familiar with that necessarily. We have everybody who's come to us, and we've worked very diligently with all levels during the regional economic development process. And as you know, I am in two different districts, one Mid-Hudson and here in the Capital District. And I think there is money available in a whole bunch of different places for a lot of different size companies. I haven't really heard from anybody that's saying it's much harder for small businesses. It's come to us. Have you done any?
Okay, good.
And we'd certainly like to help any size business who comes to us.
How do you feel about the Common Core?
I think it was a disaster rolling out. It was really unfortunate because I do believe in standards. I do believe that, and we've heard from even from a number of different superintendents, notably here in Hudson, that it's been a really, those common standards have been a really good thing for them, because when you have a transient population, it's great to know that kids have had the same, the same goals or the same curriculum in some ways as, not exactly the same curriculum, but at least, are operating at the same level if they're changing schools. I've been from the beginning outspoken about too much testing. There's way too much testing. We've looped in, race to the top and no child left behind, and it's kind of like we've now put all of these systems on our kids. But, and I feel like they really made a mistake in not including the school districts and the parents and the teachers in the training and the preparation and giving them the resources to do this in a way. You look at Massachusetts just next door. I mean, a totally different experience with the same Common Core standards. We did in the Assembly vote to, diminish some of the impact of this by changing, making sure, I think it was K through 3, no testing, and then 3 to 5 that the impact would be delayed, and that the teacher evaluation impact would also be delayed. So we did that legislatively to sort of correct some of the things that weren't addressed in the rollout.
Is there more that you'd like to see done to address it?
The Common Core issue. I mean, I want to see our kids prepared. I loved going to school. My kids loved going to school. I want kids today to go to school enjoying what they're learning, have their appetite for education fulfilled, so I think it's really important that we make sure that school is a place of of joy and pleasure and stimulation, and it's important that we have critical thinking. It's important that we have kids growing up to be civically engaged, and I agree with those goals of the standards. I think that we need to give the school districts the resources to be, and the teachers the resources and the training to be able to implement what they need to implement in the right way. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about Common Core itself. It's not, it's not really the testing. The schools are not told what they have to teach, but I think the schools didn't have enough preparation in order to figure out for themselves what the best way to attain those goals. I'd like to see our BOCES get more involved. I mean, that is the one thing that's common in throughout the county, in all of these counties, and I'd like to see them play a role in helping develop curriculum, and because that's a much more localized kind of approach.
I mean, so the local BOCES would provide the curriculum to
Well, help work with the school districts to help develop curriculum that's that where you do have more local input and local impact on the curriculum, and also on the tests. I mean, Common Core doesn't dictate what the curriculum is. It also doesn't dictate what the test should be. But I think the districts were so overwhelmed with this whole new approach that not every. I mean, we have some superintendents. I have all or part of 15 school districts in my district, so I talk to a lot of people, and I have some of superintendents who have a curriculum background, and they said, I was comfortable developing my own curriculum to meet these standards, but obviously not every superintendent is in that position.
As a legislator, a lot of school districts have they take issue with unfunded mandates on the state and federal level, and they kind of sometimes blame the legislators for that. And where do you stand on that with the unfunded mandates and what it's doing to the school districts?
Well, when the governor put the tax cap on, he said that it would go hand in hand with a unfunded mandate relief, and that didn't actually ever happen. We have been working on a number of different fronts. Certainly, I would like to see, and this is for municipalities more than the school districts, but I would like to see the state take over the county's responsibility for Medicaid. But one of the issues that we've been, and we pushed very hard in the last budget process, and got a little, made a little progress, but we'll exactly pursue that again in legislatively as soon as the session starts again. This is to have special needs pre-K, which is the only part of the education continuum that's the responsibility of the county, have that included in the state education department, SED's responsibility, and bring that relief to the counties, and also better serve kids with special needs. I mean, we're talking about universal pre-K, it's got to be truly universal. I know you asked about schools and not municipalities, but I mean, this is, one of the areas that I've been focused on. I mean, I think that, again, it's time to really look at some of the testing requirements, how some shared funding can be addressed on, in the school districts, whether it's sharing, certain programs or, developing lunch programs. I mean, I think there's just a lot of conversations that need to happen to help the schools, and I know a lot of schools feel like they've been working very hard to cut their costs, but I think, that there's opportunity for sort of working together a little better to figure out ways to help them with that.
Didn't the state this year or last year change its GED? They're using a different test now, and it's costing a lot more for school districts to cover the cost.
Computer-based tests now.
It's computer-based tests now.
Yeah.
They're using the state's using a different company now, and I think it's gone from $50 to $100 for the test. And people who can't pay for it, the state has to pay for it. So now it's costing the state a lot more to cover those costs.
It's not something I'm familiar with.
Okay.
I mean, certainly
Okay.
can look into it, but it's not something
We haven't heard about that.
Yeah, we haven't heard
From
about that or
I just know from reading about it. But.
So you sponsored the Lyme disease bill. Can you talk about where we are with Lyme disease now at this point?
Well, I mean, this area of Dutchess and Columbia County are pretty much the epicenter of Lyme and other tick-borne diseases in the country, and we need more money for research. We need money for tick elimination. I mean, it's got to be much more on the radar screen of all of the policymakers, and I know that the insurance companies are pushing back. I mean, that's the bill that we have introduced and passed is being the insurance companies and some of these regulatory agencies are really fighting against it because they don't want to acknowledge that these diseases are chronic and that people need long-term care often. And we met the other day with a Lyme support group in Dutchess County, and it's just heartbreaking. I mean, that the struggles that people have to go through. I mean, people have literally said they took their daughter who had Lyme to a pediatrician. The pediatrician refused to treat her for anything, not about Lyme, but because they had Lyme, and that's happening all across this region, that doctors are refusing to because the regulatory agencies are really giving them a hard time and censoring them and suing them, and that's what this bill is about, is to acknowledge that there are different approaches and that this is something that we don't have an answer for yet, and that the decision making should be between a doctor and their patient and what's the best course of action best course of treatment for them.
It's crazy.
Marijuana. What's your stance on the full legalization?
On the full legalization, I mean, I supported medical marijuana. I think we have an opportunity to watch the states that have legalized it and see where they're going with it. I don't think it's something that we need to be in a hurry for, but I would like to see medical marijuana. I would like to see that expedited and start getting the treatment for people who are struggling and suffering so much. I mean, we can do this, and we should be able to do that without waiting for an undue period of time to get them the relief that they need.
And
Just on that point, have you ever smoked?
Have I ever inhaled?
Yeah.
I don't go there.
I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
well, the tax cap. How do you feel about Governor Cuomo's tax cap at this point? Was it a good idea or not?
A lot of our constituents are very happy with it. I think it's really put the school boards, the school districts, and the municipalities in a very tough spot. It was, like I said, it was supposed to come with a significant mandate relief package that would offset it, and that hasn't happened. And so, that's certainly something I personally I'm looking to try to be able to deliver for my two counties, the towns that I represent.
To get rid of the tax cap?
No, to be able to get enough mandate to relief to make it, make it work for them.
Those mandates.
A lot of good ideas, but that's no
cost.
money for it.
Did we talk about broadband already?
No.
No, but for 2 years, over 2 years now, I have been trying to get better service in this area. I know you've done a census up here and all, but I mean it's just mind-boggling to me that we're still in the early 20th century here rather than the 21st century in Columbia County particularly. I mean we laugh because I travel back and forth often on the Taconic from our Dutchess County office to our office up here, and I'm out of touch for a good chunk of that trip, which is ridiculous. No, it's a huge issue, and if we really want economic development in this area, we want to encourage more people to have businesses at home and small businesses. We absolutely must have that.
There's been a lot of corruption in New York State government. What do you see as can be done, to prevent situations?
Well, this is something that I feel strongly about. It's part of the reason that I ran was to bring a different face onto elected officials and, particularly girls. I want girls growing up to say, I could be an elected official, I can be a policymaker, I can be the person who makes these decisions because there's somebody that, that looks like me, that I look like. I've been a sponsor of the bill to be sure that anybody convicted of a felony has their pension removed. That's not the policy right now. I, from the very beginning, led by example for refusing to take per diems and travel expense reimbursements, which I had been eligible for from the time that I was elected, because I think that those are opportunities again and we unfortunately saw it this summer that was one of the indictments was around misuse of those kinds of funds. I have no tolerance for that, and I really want to see elected officials respected the way they were when I was growing up. Maybe I was naive, but it was the way, I thought that public servants, which is what I see myself, I really do feel like I work for the people, and I tell people that all the time, I'm working for you, so how can we help you? That's what I see my job as.
That bill's elected officials convicted of a felony.
What are there other bills that you've sponsored or authored that you're particularly proud of?
Yes, we've had a number of successful bills this year. We were able to put together a package so that the Culinary Institute America and Brooklyn Brewery could be working together, allowing them to develop a new generation of brewmasters and help to establish some of these trainings for people in the Hudson Valley to have to be able to start their own breweries and become brewmasters and develop that. That was a great bill. We have a couple of other bills that the farm throughway bill that passed the Assembly, and hopefully next round we'll get the Senate to pass it as well. But because of the box trucks, which most of the farm trucks are, have to go on the throughway, they're subject to the high tolls, And this bill would give them tax deduction based on the amount of money that they spend, so that traveling to that great big appetite in New York City and the markets there would not be as impactful on their bottom line, which is what it has been. We had one farmer tell me he spent something like $10,000, was that, on just on tolls alone each year. So that's really significant. I'm drawing a blank on our bills here at this.
Old McDonald.
Well, yeah, we had one bill that
We affectionately call.
we called Old McDonald to support older farmers, to bring attention to that. We had another bill that the governor just signed that streamlined the paperwork process for child welfare applicants. Just to I'm very committed to trying to cut down on paperwork and bureaucracy and regulations whenever possible. So this was a bill that we sponsored on that.
I'm sorry, paperwork for who?
Child welfare applicants, just to sort of simplify that whole process. No, I'm trying to remember. We've been
Lyme was such a big part of
Yeah,
it.
Lyme was
a lot of what we did was budget initiatives. But we started work on the universal pre-K and
Mm-hmm.
the tax relief.
Yeah, no, we.
The Wappingers Creek bill.
Oh, we
which
just we had.
we'll possibly replicate up here.
Right, we did that. Was actually we just had a little ceremony for that this morning. Was to make Wappingers Creek a inland waterway designation, which allows all the towns, and it was 10.
It's 11 towns.
11
around
towns,
Wappingers.
well, 10 towns and a village, right? Is that right? The 11 municipalities that were part of it, it makes them able to apply for all sorts of different kinds of funding, both for pollution remediation and for controlled development and all sorts of things. So we're actually have had some conversations with people up here about Clover Creek.
Creek.
Yeah.
What's the toughest bill you had to get through? Have you had any battles?
Lyme bill.
Yeah, the Lyme bill has
Yeah.
been. I mean, we worked on that for 2 years. I mean, we kind of went back to the drawing board a few times to get that right, and I was very. I mean, Nick worked very hard on it, and we were able to work with the chair of the health committee to sort of help us. Understand because so many of these things, it's like you think it's under this law, but it's not really under that law, and just figure out how to, how to move it forward. We haven't, and I had a bill too, which we haven't been able to move through yet, but which is, an animal protection, dog protection, to be sure that people have who have been abusers, that there's a county registry of statewide. There's currently a county registry, and this would be a statewide registry of animal abusers. And that's, I think we're going to go back and refine that a little bit too, because that reached some stumbling blocks in the rules committee that we need to address.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about?
Is there anything you want to bring up?
Just, that I, like I said, that, I love this area. I feel very privileged and blessed to be able to represent it, and I think we're at a real moment in time here in the Hudson Valley where we want to see the right kinds of things happen, and be able to attract the next generation that will protect the things that we love and make this their home, and bring their businesses here and attract the visitors and the tourists, and I want to be part of making sure that happens.
I have one more question.
Okay.
What do you see as the biggest difference between you and Mike Kelsey? I mean, a lot of things I think you probably agree on, and I just was wondering if you
I don't really know him. I know me, and I know that I will be a full-time advocate, and that I will, that I do support transparency and independent redistricting. I was surprised to hear him say that, he didn't believe in that. That I will work full-time. I know he's got several other businesses that he operates, and does, law practice and kayaking business or something like that. I mean, all I know is what I've read from, about him. But I know that you know what you get with me. You've seen it for 2.5 years.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks a
thanks
lot.
very much. Thank you for your time.
So you're gonna sleep a lot after the 4th?
On the 5th,